Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, visualizing, meditating, affirming, yet nothing seems to change? As if the universe has gone silent on you despite your constant efforts to align with it? You try to stay positive. You speak intentions with conviction, but deep down, something still feels off. There's a subtle tension, a quiet, heavy sensation of resistance that never seems to lift. This is not just your imagination. It is not spiritual laziness. It is not a lack of belief. What you're sensing, often without being able to name it, is a hidden vibrational error, a silent misalignment that operates beneath your affirmations, sabotaging everything you try to attract. And the most dangerous part? It's invisible to your conscious mind. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This invisible force is not fate. It's programming. It's the emotional residue of experiences never metabolized, the voice of inherited beliefs speaking through your nervous system. And unless it's brought to light, it will keep you in a loop of unfulfilled desires and silent suffering. This video exists to help you see what's been hidden and transform it. Drawing on the groundbreaking teachings of Napoleon Hill, who taught that thought is the genesis of reality, we'll expose the dissonance between what you think you're manifesting and what you're actually broadcasting vibrational. This is where real change begins, by shouting louder at the universe, but by harmonizing the quiet tones within you. Let's begin. The silent factor that sabotages your vibrational frequency, hidden limiting beliefs. Sometimes the most persistent obstacles in life are not the external conditions we try so hard to change, but the quiet convictions we carry inside us without ever realizing. These convictions operate like background music in our consciousness. We might be dancing to the beat of our dreams on the outside, but if the inner tune is discordant, full of doubt, fear, and inherited shame, then the rhythm of manifestation collapses in on it. No matter how many times we visualize or affirm, the process of manifestation is not powered by conscious desire alone. It is fueled by the emotional signature you emit moment by. That signature is created by belief. Not the beliefs you recite aloud, but the ones etched deeply into your nervous system, the ones that formed when you were too young to choose what to believe. Before we understood the world with words, we understood it through emotion, sensation. If love felt conditional, if safety felt absent, if presence from others was inconsistent, our body recorded those patterns and interpreted them as truth. Those truths became the architecture of our frequency. That's why most people spend years trying to manifest abundance while unknowingly vibrating scarcity. They chant, "I am worthy," while their nervous system trembles with the memory of being neglected. They repeat, "I receive with ease," while their inner child still believes they have to earn love through perfection or sacrifice. This contradiction creates vibrational static, the very noise that cancels out the signal you're trying to send to the universe. It's tempting to think this can be fixed with more positivity, but forced positivity is often repression disguised as light. It's a form of emotional bypassing that leaves the inner landscape unchanged. You cannot whitewash over your childhood wounds with affirmation. That's like planting rose seed to bloom. The soil must be healed first. Your body, your subconscious, they must learn to feel safe again, to feel seen, to feel held. Only then can new beliefs take root in fertile ground. The neuroscience behind this is clear. Our brain, especially the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex, is deeply influenced by unresolved emotional memory. Studies in neuroplasticity have shown that the brain doesn't just remember facts, it remembers feeling states. When a certain emotion is repeated enough, it creates neural pathways that default to that state. So if, for instance, you grew up feeling like your needs were a burden, your brain wires that belief into your sense of identity. It then unconsciously filters every experience through that lens, rejecting abundance not because you don't want it, but because it feels unsafe to receive it. This is where real transformation begins, not in the mind, but in the body. You must learn to recognize the language of your frequency, not as words, but as sensation. What does expansion feel like? What does contraction feel like? When you try to imagine wealth, love, or peace, do you feel open or tight? This is your true indicator of belief, not what you say, but what you feel in your tissue. To shift this at a deep level, you must first become intimate with your own resistance. Observe the moments when you reject praise, dismiss compliments, sabotage opportunity, or downplay your own dreams. These are not isolated flaws. They are clues. They point to core beliefs, often unspoken, like "I'm not good enough," "I don't belong," or "I'm always too late." You can't fix what you refuse to acknowledge, but when you meet these beliefs with compassion instead of shame, they begin to soften, they begin to One way to start this healing is through symbolic memory rewriting. Choose a memory where you felt small, unseen, or unworthy. Feel the emotion of that moment rise in your body. Then, in your mind's eye, introduce a new character, a wiser version of yourself, or a divine presence. Let this character step into the scene. Hold the child you were, and speak words you never heard but always need. Words like, "You were never broken," or "You didn't need to earn love, you were born." Let your body feel the warmth of those words. This isn't fantasy, it's energetic correction. It reprograms not just your thoughts, your somatic truth. Think of your inner frequency like an instrument. If your strings are out of tune, no matter how skillfully you play, the music will sound off. You can know all the techniques, follow all the steps, mimic every guru, but if the instrument is vibrating with unresolved pain, the melody of your life will still carry dissonance. Tuning the instrument means going inward, listening, adjusting gently, finding where the tension lives and easing it, not with force, but with awareness and grace. This is not a one-time fix. Healing limiting beliefs is a daily, sacred return to self. It's a process restoring integrity between what you say you want and what your body believes is possible. As this coherence grows, your vibration becomes clear. And with clarity, manifestations being an uphill battle, it becomes natural, effortless. You begin to receive not because you've fought for it, but because your very presence has become an invitation for abundance. The world reflects not what you say you desire, but who you are in frequency. And who you are is shaped by the beliefs you carry, seen and unseen. If those beliefs were born in pain, then pain will keep echoing through your attempts to create. But if you dare to re-enter those painful rooms of memory with compassion, with curiosity, with the intention to understand rather than judge, something shifts. You stop identifying with the old stories. You reclaim authorship. You tune the instrument. And then, finally, the melody of your manifestation can play. Clean, resonant, true. What you've been calling failure to manifest, not fail. It is feedback. It is the universe saying, something inside you still believes it's not safe to receive. Don't ignore this whisper. Lean into it, decode it, heal it, because on the other side of these hidden beliefs is a new reality waiting to be born through you as a wish, as a truth already alive in your. The invisible self-punishment that blocks your true vibrational frequency. There is a form of suffering that often hides in the quietest corners of our being. It does not scream or demand attention. It whispers in subtle ways, through hesitation, through self-sabotage, through the quiet belief that we are never quite enough. This is not a conscious. It does not live in the language of your goals or affirmations. It lives beneath them, a shadow frequency woven from unhealed guilt, shame, and the invisible burden of feeling undeserving. Many people who seek manifestation are not actually afraid of failure. They are afraid of receiving, not because they don't want it, but because some part of them believes they haven't earned it, or worse, that they don't deserve it at all. This belief does not arise from logic. It is emotional. Often, it is ancestral. It is the inherited vibration of generations who were taught that suffering was noble and joy was indulgent. And so, unconsciously, they pass down the belief that to be happy, to be abundant, to be seen, requires some form of payment. This is what self-punishment, not in dramatic displays, but in the quiet refusal to allow ease, in the way we overwork ourselves for basic, in the way we push love away, unconsciously creating distance just when connection is offered, in the way we complicate abundance, sabotaging opportunities at the last moment, all because a part of us still equates effort with worth. Neuroscience shows that repeated emotional states condition the brain into pattern. When guilt is felt often enough, it becomes a baseline. The body memorizes. The nervous system begins to crave it. This is not a metaphor. It's a measurable pattern of hormonal addiction. Cortisol, adrenaline, and even dopamine can create a chemical loop in which your system learns to feel safe in stress and disconnected in peace. You begin to chase chaos, not because it serves you, but because it feels familiar. Imagine someone walking through life with a weight on their back they've forgotten is. They grow stronger carrying it. They adapt to its pressure. But when the weight is removed, when life offers ease, they panic. Something feels wrong. The lightness feels suspicious. They might even create a new burden to replace the old one, just to restore the sensation they unconsciously associate with safety. This is how self-punishment perpetuates. It isn't chosen, it is remembered. There is a myth deeply ingrained in our collective psyche that joy must be earned, that rest must be justified, that love must be deserved through pain. So we manifest struggle, not because we want to suffer, but because struggle feels like home. Until we question this home, until we choose a new emotional blueprint, we will continue to attract realities that mirror the belief that our value is measured by our sacrifice. To shift this, we must begin not with effort, but with softness, not with more doing, but with deeper. We must meet the part of ourselves that believes punishment is necessary and offer it safety. This is not an intellectual task, it is emotional. It requires presence, slowness, and a radical kind of a willingness to hold the inner child who learned that love was conditional, a readiness to speak to them in a new language. When someone carries guilt that is unacknowledged, it seeps into every intention. Even their prayers are laced with a subtle plea for forgiveness. Even their dreams come wrapped in fear of judgment. This is why manifestation becomes inconsistent. The signal is not clean. There's static in the broadcast, the frequency of unworthiness. The universe does not judge this frequency. It simply responds to it. Like an echo in a canyon, what you send out, consciously or unconsciously, returns to you amplified. One of the most powerful ways to begin dissolving self-punishment is to become intimate with your patterns of resistance. Notice when you feel discomfort in moments of joy, when you push away compliments, when you lower your voice around someone successful, when you shrink your desires in conversations. These are not minor gestures, they are energetic contractions. Each one is a signal that some part of you still believes it's safer to stay small. You can begin shifting this by creating micro moments of worthiness. When you receive a compliment, pause and let it land. When abundance shows up even in small forms, a gift, a coincidence, an unexpected ease, allow yourself to feel it. Say thank you, not just out loud, but in your cells. Let the sensation of receiving become familiar again. Rewire your nervous system to associate goodness with safety, not threat. There's a practice, ancient and yet deeply relevant, called tending the inner altar. It involves seeing your own heart as space, a temple. Every day you bring offerings to this, a kind word to yourself, a pause of an act of joy with no justification. These rituals are not about fixing. They are about reminding your body that it is already holy, that you do not need to suffer to be spiritual, that your worth is not a currency, it is a fact. This is where manifestation begins to transform, not from a place of striving, but from a place of wholeness. When you are no longer trying to earn your desires, but are instead allowing them to find you, as your vibration says, I belong, everything shifts. Opportunities arrive, synchronicities align. But more importantly, you are finally able to receive without guilt. Self-punishment will try to return. It is a habit as much as a belief. But when you meet it with awareness, not resistance, it loses power. You begin to notice the moment you start to overgive, to overwork, to overthink, and you stop. You return to the altar, you breathe, you choose again. Because ultimately, manifestation is not about creating a new life. It is about creating a new relationship with yourself, one where worthiness is not earned, but remembered, one where abundance is not pursued, but received, one where you no longer punish yourself for existing. You simply exist, and that is enough. When you embody this, your frequency becomes unmistakable. It no longer wavers. It no longer apologizes. It simply shines, quietly, confidently, clearly. And the universe, always listening, responds in kind. Not because you've proven yourself, but because you finally believe what it has known all along. You are already worthy of everything you dream. The fatal mistake of trying to manifest without emotional coherence. There is a strange kind of exhaustion that takes root in those who try everything to manifest, but continue to feel stuck. They visualize, they set intentions, they recite affirmations with discipline, and still the results are minimal, delayed, or hollow. This isn't due to a lack of effort. It isn't due to laziness or lack of desire. It's due to one critical missing piece: emotional coherence. You can want something with your mind and still be in conflict with it emotionally. You can declare abundance while your body carries the vibration of lack. You can say, "I am ready," while your subconscious trembles with fear. This inner contradiction isn't obvious. It hides beneath the surface, showing itself only through energetic results: resistance, delay, or misalignment. Dr. Joe Dispenza often speaks of the necessity of unifying heart and mind, of becoming coherent before any true shift can occur. The heart has its own electromagnetic field, far more powerful than that of the brain. It broadcasts emotion. It creates harmony or dissonance. When the brain holds a desire, but the heart clings to old emotions, there is static in the system. The signal to the universe becomes scrambled. This is why so many people feel stuck despite doing the work. They are mentally invested, but emotionally misaligned. They visualize wealth while feeling fear. They imagine love while carrying wounds. They speak of freedom while living in tension. And the universe, attuned not to words, but to energy, mirrors not what is said, but is felt. Coherence is not about perfection. It's about alignment. It means your thoughts, emotions, and body are moving in the same direction. It's a feeling of inner clarity, not forced positivity, but deep congruence. When you are emotionally coherent, there is no inner tug of war. Your intention becomes a clean signal, one that the universe can respond to clearly, quickly, and without confusion. But emotional coherence requires honesty. You must be willing to admit where you are not yet free, where you contract, where your nervous still flinches. Most people skip this part. They want the outcome without the intimacy of self-awareness. They want to leap to the manifestation without touching the wound. But energy doesn't lie. You cannot trick the universe into giving you something your own body is rejecting. There are subtle signs that coherence is missing. You might feel drained after visualization. You might feel tension in your chest when affirming a new reality. You might feel elation during meditation, but anxiety minutes later. These shifts reveal a lack of integration. It means the new belief hasn't been accepted emotionally. It's still just a thought. One of the greatest misunderstandings in manifestation is the idea that clarity of desire is enough. It isn't. Clarity must be embodied. You must feel what you seek before it arrives, not as a fantasy, but as a living vibration within your nervous system. That feeling then becomes your home frequency, and from that frequency, reality begins to reshape. To build emotional coherence, begin with curiosity, not force. Ask yourself, what emotion lives beneath this desire? Often, desire is driven by an emotional hunger. We want abundance not for the numbers, but for the safety, the freedom, the peace. We want love not just for romance, for presence, for reflection, for belonging. If your emotional body does not believe those qualities are safe or accessible, it will resist them, even if your mind wants it desperately. Once you uncover the emotion beneath the desire, ask again, do I feel safe experiencing? For many, joy feels dangerous, peace feels boring, love feels unpredictable. The body has associated these emotions with past wounds, and so it shuts them down before they settle in. This is where the work begins, not in the mind, but in the rewiring of emotional permission. There is a technique, gentle and powerful, that can begin this rewiring. Close your eyes, breathe deeply. Imagine the emotion you most desire: peace, joy, love, freedom. Don't visualize the outcome. Just feel the emotion. Let it grow in your chest. Then observe what happens in your body. Does it open or resist? Where is the tension? Stay with it. Soften into it. Don't rush. You are not fixing it. You are witnessing. And in that witnessing, new patterns begin to form. Think of your inner system as a compass. The mind sets the direction, but the heart determines whether you will arrive. If your heart pulls in another direction, your path will be full of detours. Emotional coherence is when the compass aligns, when north feels like truth, not just intention. There is a metaphor that fits here. Imagine a ship with sails wide open, but the anchor still buried deep in the ocean floor. No matter how strong the wind of intention blows, the ship cannot move. The anchor is emotional incoherence, the weight of unhealed emotion and misaligned energy. Until the anchor is lifted, effort is, but once it is, even the lightest breeze can carry the ship far. This doesn't mean you must be emotionally perfect to manifest. It means you must be emotionally honest. Coherence is not about never feeling fear. It's about not pretending you don't. It's about feeling fully, processing wisely, and aligning gently. It's about creating space for your emotions to speak before you try to silence them with willpower. When coherence is present, manifestation accelerates. Your frequency becomes unmistakable. You no longer beg the universe. You resonate with it. You no longer chase outcomes. You attract alignment. And perhaps most beautifully, you begin to feel different even before the external world changes, because the real miracle isn't what appears in your life. It's who you become as you align. To create coherence, return to your emotional truth. Name it, feel it, integrate it, and then let your thoughts match your feelings, and your actions match them both. That is when you stop trying to manifest and begin to embody what is already true in the unseen. That is when the universe begins to echo your vibration with clarity, speed, and grace. A mental model to transmute anxiety into elevated intention. There are moments when the desire to manifest becomes so intense that it begins to morph into something else entirely: pressure. What was once a heart-centered intention becomes a quiet obsession. The longing turns into urgency. The present becomes a prison where fulfillment feels forever delayed. And underneath all of this movement lies a single, pulsing vibration: anxiety. Anxiety is not always loud. Sometimes it lives in the quiet grasp for control, in the subtle panic when things don't unfold on schedule, in the tightening of the chest every time you imagine your dream not arriving. It is the vibrational undercurrent that says it's not happening fast enough, or worse, it might never happen at all. But manifestation does not respond to timelines. It responds to frequency. When your frequency is laced with anxiety, no matter how beautiful the vision, you create a signal of resistance. The universe does not punish this signal, it simply mirrors it. If your energy says, "I don't trust," then life reflects more moments that validate your fear, not as punishment, but as confirmation of the vibration you've chosen to sustain. To transmute anxiety into elevated intention, we must first understand what anxiety truly is. It is a form of displaced presence. It is the mind jumping ahead into a future it does not trust, while the body remains in the now, confused, unsettled, and ungrounded. This dissonance between mental projection and bodily presence creates static in the energetic. It disconnects you from your innate power, which only exists here, now, in this breath. When intention is infused with anxiety, it becomes a kind of spiritual begging. You might be asking for love, but the frequency is fear of. You might be asking for abundance, but the frequency is fear of lack. And the universe, precise, responds not to your words, but to the emotional signature beneath them. This is not a flaw. It is an invitation. Anxiety reveals where you are still trying to create from control rather than connection. It shows you the parts of your inner world that are still ruled by timelines, conditions, and past disappointment. It offers you the choice to return, not to force, but to shift this state. We can adopt a mental model rooted in presence, acceptance, and energetic redirection. Think of this model not as a strategy, but as a rhythm, a new way of relating to desire that honors both the vision and the journey. The first movement in this model is witnessing. When anxiety arises, instead of resisting it or labeling it as wrong, you meet it with observation. You pause, you breathe, you You allow it to speak. Where does it live in your body? What thought is it feeding on? What unmet need is it reflecting? Often anxiety is not the enemy. It is the messenger. It carries insight about a part of you that still feels unsafe, unseen, or uncertain. When you welcome the message, the intensity begins to soften. Awareness, after all, is the first frequency of healing. The second movement is anchoring. This means returning to the body. Anxiety exists in the mind's projection of the future, but the body only knows the now. So you root into sensation. You feel your feet on the floor. You follow your breath through the nose, into the belly, and back out. You place a hand on your chest, on your abdomen, reminding your system that you are here and here is safe. This act of grounding does not eliminate the desire. It simply brings you back to the only place where real manifestation begins, the present. The third movement is recalibration. This is where you shift from anxious asking to elevated intention. You acknowledge your desire, not as something distant or lacking, but as a vibration you are already beginning to embody. Instead of saying, "I want," you breathe into, "I am becoming." Instead of affirming, "It hasn't happened yet," you hold, "It is aligning, even now." This shift is subtle, but profound. It lifts your frequency from desperation to devotion, from control to communion. Think of this like tuning an instrument. If your emotional body is the strings, anxiety is the dissonance. You don't tear the instrument apart. You listen, adjust, attune. You find the note that resonates with trust, with clarity, with peace, and you hold it gently until the body begins to remember what that vibration feels like. There is a metaphor that illustrates this beautifully. Imagine an archer aiming at a distant target. The intention is clear. The arrow is nocked. But if the archer pulls the string too tightly, trying to control every variable, the shot loses its fluidity. The arrow wobbles. The aim falters. Tension, not direction, becomes the dominant force. But when the archer softens, aligns breath with focus, and releases with trust, the arrow flies true. Anxiety is the over-tightening of the bow. Elevated intention is the relaxed precision of inner alignment. In this model, you become the archer of your own energy. You learn to draw your desires from a place of presence, not panic. You learn to hold your vision without gripping it. You give the universe space to respond, not by stepping back from your dream, but by stepping deeper into your frequency. There will be moments when anxiety returns. It is a pattern, not a week. But now you have a map. You witness, you anchor, recalibrate. Each time you do, you teach your system a new rhythm. You train your vibration to resonate with trust. And trust is magnetic. It pulls possibilities toward you with grace and speed, not because you chase them, but because you align. This is the art of elevated. It is not. It is the choice to rise above the noise of urgency and to speak to the universe in the language it understands best: presence, clarity, coherence. When you master this, anxiety no longer controls you. It becomes a signal, one that reminds you to return to yourself, to your breath, to your truth. And from that space, manifestation stops being an effort. It becomes a reflection, a natural unfolding, a mirror of the calm, clear, anchored energy you now carry. The dream does not arrive because you demanded it. It arrives because you became it. The leaf and the wind, the art of trusting in a restored vibration. Some truths do not arrive with thunder. They arrive as a whisper, soft, steady, undeniable. One of these truths is this: you were never meant to fight your way into alignment. The struggle, the urgency, the doubt. These are echoes of conditioning, not reflections. Deep within you, there is already a rhythm that knows how to manifest. But that rhythm only emerges when you stop forcing and begin allowing. We began this journey by unmasking the hidden error that keeps you trapped, a subtle vibrational dissonance born not from failure, but from forgotten pain. We explored how beliefs formed in childhood silently override your intention, how invisible guilt drives self-punishment, and how emotional incoherence creates friction between what you want and what you feel. And then we discovered something deeper, that even anxiety, when met with presence, can be transformed into sacred clarity. You are not broken. You are simply misaligned, not in spirit, but in sensation. Real manifestation isn't about intensity, it's about integrity. It's not about speaking louder, but about feeling truer. Like a leaf carried by the wind, your most powerful manifestations emerge not when you grip tightly to outcome, but when your vibration becomes one with the current of the universe. Greg Braden once said, "The feeling is the prayer. What you feel is you ask for, and what you consistently feel becomes the blueprint of your future." If you carry trust, peace, and openness within your field, even before the evidence shows up, then reality must eventually mirror that vibration. So ask yourself, what have you been broadcasting in silence, not just through words, but through your breath, your posture, your dreams? Because the universe is listening, and the moment you shift your frequency, it begins to respond, always, without exception, without delay. Now I leave you with a single question, one that could change everything. Are you finally ready to release the hidden frequency that's been holding your life hostage? If this message touched you, if it stirred something inside that's been waiting to be seen, then this is your moment. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another insight like this one. There is so much more ahead, and you are meant to walk this journey awake, aware, and fully aligned. And don't stop here. Continue your transformation by watching the next video appearing on. Let it be the next breath in this sacred rhythm of remembering who you truly are. This is not an ending. This is a return to presence, power, to truth, and to the version of you that has always